welcome to Oregon Law Lab.
I'm Professor Liz Tippett.
And I'm Jessica Brown. Today we'll be talking about poultry workers and the way in which their jobs signify a window into the labor market.
Joining us will be Charlotte Alexander, a professor at the College of Business at Georgia State University. And joining us in the interview will be Ben Pincus, a third-year student at the University of Oregon Law School.
So the first question, I guess, is how did you end up working with poultry workers?
After law school, I clerked, and then I was a Skadden Fellow at Georgia Legal Services in the Farm Worker Rights Division. So we didn't actually work directly with poultry workers in that job, but I represented many immigrant workers who had wage and hour claims against their employers.
Let's talk about like the skills involved in being like a frontline poultry worker. A poultry worker on the line, like what are they actually doing?
So the first stage in the process is to physically capture the live poultry. So there, oftentimes the crews will go in at nighttime when the birds are more docile, physically catch them, gather them up. So then the birds are transported to the plant. So the birds are killed, they're hung up. Their feathers are removed, so the carcasses are broken down depending on the ultimate use of the meat. If you think of like the classic Ford automobile assembly line, right? This is a disassembly line where you start with the live birds, and end up with, your chicken tenders that you buy.
I mean, like, so if I was going to butcher a chicken, it would take me like an hour, and I would do it badly. Like, I imagine they're doing it faster than that.
Right, so the line speeds are really, really fast. The line speed is dictated actually by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and it's determined by, according to the number of birds that the USDA determines that an inspector can safely inspect.
So it has nothing to do with the workers. It's about the speed of the inspection.
Exactly. If you have workers who are, getting cuts, and sort of another issue that comes up is bathroom breaks, right? So workers don't have time to take a bathroom break, and sometimes, have accidents on the line, right? So really, if you think about it from first principles, food safety and worker safety really should be part of the same conversation.
So then, I guess, why aren't poultry workers either compensated better or have good benefits? Why isn't this danger balanced out with better benefits?
It's a job in which there are few barriers to entry to get into that job. So that means that there are many, many workers who are able to take those jobs. And in fact, turnover in the poultry industry is really, really high. It's hard to find definite numbers, but people who study the industry put it at around 100% annually, meaning that the entire frontline poultry workforce turns over every year. So this means that there are a lot of workers, and that means that workers have a hard time demanding better conditions, better pay, better benefits.
So you talk about peripheral labor in your work. Can you kind of go a little bit into that, and what exactly is peripheral labor?
So you might think of the core jobs in the labor market as being those that require high levels of education, have benefits, have an expectation of security, of job security and job tenure, whereas peripheral jobs tend to be lower skilled and have lower wages, more dangerous, et cetera. So in thinking about the interaction of immigration issues and employment issues, I thought that this core peripheral framework was kind of useful in trying to understand the different types of jobs that exist. And so, again, thinking about poultry as an example, you have core folks in the poultry industry who run the businesses, who may be the management, but the people who do that frontline work really are even though their labor is core to the firm, to the company, they sort of operate on the periphery, right? Because they are highly replaceable, because there's this high turnover, and therefore very little pressure to improve the conditions.
I mean, do you see like a trend towards, the entire labor market looking like that?
So Yeah, so I think that there is a move toward the periphery and out of the core. So we might think about Uber drivers as sort of the archetypal example of someone who holds an independent contractor status, or at least is labeled as an independent contractor. But folks who work at the front desk of hotels, for example, might be classified by their employers as independent contractors, or might be employed by another employer who then supplies workers to the hotel chain.
And one of the things I think that worries me about this trend is there's a moat between the core and the periphery. So if you're employed by some other entity at the hotel desk, front desk, like, what are the odds you're going to get that manager position if you don't even work for the same company? Okay.
And I actually think a lot of people tend to think about employee versus independent contractor, or a lot of the talk now is, robots are taking our jobs. But
Right.
I think actually we can consider all of these moves as points on a continuum.
Okay.
So if you have traditional employee status at the core, then employers might make the first move to, instead of full-time employees, they might start to employ part-time employees.
Mm-hmm.
And then from part-time employees, they might make a move toward independent contractors, or toward a labor staffing organization that would then supply workers. Then they might start to look, well, what can we offshore, right? They're still talking about humans,
Right.
but they're talking about workers who are in other countries. And then they might start to make a move toward automation, and think about all of these moves away from core employee status. And all of these moves are sort of on a menu for employers to think about, well, how can we pick and choose among these different ways of getting the job done?
Professor Alexander, thank you so much for joining us today. I learned so much and really appreciate your expertise on all of these issues.
Great. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thanks for watching.
We would be very pleased if you liked or subscribed our channel, along with my mother and 2 other people.
That's sport.
You know what? I don't think my mother even is a subscriber. I actually made that.
I'm